A few days ago, the United States did something it hadn't done in 15 years. It stepped into the currency market and spent money to help rescue another country's money. Not a war zone, not some collapsing emerging market. Japan, the safest, cleanest, most polite economy on earth. Here's what almost nobody understands. Everyone believes a country in trouble can only do two things: crash or recover. Japan discovered a third option. It refused to crash. It froze itself instead for 35 years. And the bill for that freeze has just arrived on your mortgage rate and inside your retirement account. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how the second richest country in history froze itself solid, why the whole world is secretly standing on that ice, and why America is quietly following the same playbook. Land in Tokyo today and you'll see a country that works better than yours. Trains arrive on the second, streets so safe people leave laptops on cafe tables. Almost nobody is unemployed. People live longer than almost anywhere on the planet. The postcard is perfect. Now look at one number. In the early 90s, Japan produced about as much wealth per person as any country on earth. It was racing past the United States. Today it produces roughly the same amount as back then, not less, not more, the same. The world moved on. Japan didn't. On wealth per person, it has slid from the top of the rankings to somewhere around 35th. In 2025, India pushed Japan out of the top 4 economies entirely. And here's the strangest part. Prices froze too. Wages froze. For an entire generation, a can of coffee from a vending machine cost the same. Year after year after year. This is not poverty. Poverty is loud. This is something quieter and in a way scarier. A country where time stopped and everyone politely agreed not to mention it. Someone pressed pause on the world's most promising economy. To find out who, you have to go back to the moment Japan was about to buy the planet. We're 3 minutes away from finding out who actually froze this country. If you want the next investigation like this one, subscribe. It's free and it takes 1 second. By the late 1980s, the future spoke Japanese. 8 of the 10 biggest companies on earth were Japanese. One Japanese bank was said to be worth more than all of Wall Street's giants combined. The land under the Emperor's Palace, a few square kilometers, was valued higher than all the real estate in California. Japan wasn't just winning at home. Mitsubishi bought Rockefeller Center. Sony bought a Hollywood studio. American politicians spoke openly of an economic invasion. So Washington acted. In 1985, at the Plaza Hotel in New York, America pressured Japan into an agreement to push the yen up. Within 2 years, the yen nearly doubled against the dollar. Japanese products became expensive overnight. Exports stalled. And that's the official story you'll hear everywhere. America got scared. America twisted arms. America killed the Japanese miracle. Clean, logical. Case closed, right? Wrong. The Plaza Accord wounded Japan's exports. But what turned a wound into a time bomb happened next. In Tokyo, by Japanese hands. To soften the blow, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates to the lowest level in the developed world. And through a quiet system called window guidance, the central bank kept telling commercial banks how much to lend. And the answer was always more. Cheap money flooded into land and stocks. Banks lent against land, using the land itself as proof the loan was safe, while their own lending was exactly what was inflating its price. Companies joined in. At one point, car makers were making more money speculating than building cars. The bubble wasn't made in Washington, it was made in Tokyo. And in 1990, someone finally turned off the music. To cool the madness, the Bank of Japan jacked rates from 2.5% to 6%. The results were biblical. In 2 years, the Japanese stock market lost more than half its value. Trillions of dollars erased. Land prices began a collapse that would last a decade. Now here's the second thing everyone believes. A crash is survivable. Markets crash, economies heal. America proved it in 2008. Banks died, losses were taken, the system restarted. Painful, brutal, and over. That's a fair argument. Crashes are survivable, but notice what surviving one requires. It requires admitting the loss. And that is the one thing Japan could not do. Instead of letting broken banks fail, Japan kept them standing to save face. The dead kept walking. Economists gave them a name: zombie banks. Here's how a zombie works. A company can't repay its loan, so the bank lends it new money just enough to pay the interest on the old money. On paper, the loan is fine. In reality, nothing is fine. It's like shoving the mess into the closet before your parents visit and taking a photo. The room was never clean. The photo says it is. Do that across an entire country, and up to a fifth of all bank loans become fiction. In 1997, it briefly cracked. One of Japan's four great brokerage houses collapsed, and its president wept on live television, apologizing to his employees. So let's recap the story so far, because it changes everything. The bubble was made in Tokyo, and the crash of 1990 never actually ended. It was postponed. But how do you postpone a crash for 35 years? You build a machine. Here's the machine. Watch closely, because your savings are inside it. Step 1. To keep the zombies breathing, the Bank of Japan cut interest rates to zero, and then it left them there. Not for a year, for roughly 3 decades. When even that wasn't enough, it invented money printing on a scale no one had tried before, buying its own government's debt until it held about half of it. Step 2 is where you come in. When a whole country's money becomes free to borrow, it becomes the world's cheapest credit card. So the smartest investors on earth ran an obvious play. Borrow yen at 0%. Convert it. Buy anything that pays more than zero. American government bonds at 4, 5%. Tech stocks, whatever's going up. Free money. They call it the yen carry trade, and by recent estimates, it quietly funded trillions of dollars of investments around the world. Step 3. The Japanese themselves joined the exit. For 30 years, nothing at home paid anything. So Japan's pension funds, insurers, and households shipped their savings abroad. Japan became the single biggest foreign holder of America's debt, more than $1 trillion of it. Its public pension fund, alone the biggest on the planet, manages $1.8 trillion, about half of it outside Japan. Now step back and look at what the machine actually built. Japan didn't decline into irrelevance. That's the illusion. Japan became the invisible bank of the Western world, the tech rally in your index fund, the demand that keeps your mortgage rate from being even higher. Somewhere in the plumbing, a piece of it runs on borrowed Japanese money. The freeze didn't just preserve Japan's past, it quietly became the foundation of your present. And this whole machine, the zombies, the free money, the $1 trillion outflow, rested on one single condition: prices in Japan must never rise. In 2022, prices rose. Global inflation reached the one country that had forgotten it existed, and the machine began running in reverse. A weak yen suddenly meant expensive energy, expensive food. Japan imports almost all of it. The yen sank to its lowest level against the dollar in 40 years. Japan fought back. In a single month this spring, it burned a record $73.6 billion defending its currency. It worked for about 3 weeks. The central bank raised rates to 1%, the highest since 1995. Government bonds that paid nearly nothing in 2022 now pay around 3%. And on a debt worth more than twice the entire economy, every fraction of a percent is a mountain of interest. You've already felt a preview of what this unwinding does. August 5th, 2024. Japan raised rates by 0.25%. The Tokyo market suffered its worst day since 1987, and Wall Street dropped 3%. Millions of Americans watched their portfolios bleed that day with no idea Japan was the reason. So now Japan is playing its real card. This summer, the government told that giant pension fund to start bringing the money home. In the first quarter of this year, Japan dumped almost $30 billion of U.S. government bonds, its biggest sale in years. And in the middle of all this, anonymous posts started going viral in Japan, claiming, with no official confirmation, to speak for the people behind this policy. One of them read, "Japan's wealth is returning to its homeland, by any means necessary." Nobody knows who writes them. They are rumors. Treat them as rumors, but put them next to the actual policy, and they stop sounding crazy. Here's the honest part. No economy this size has ever tried to call its money home. Not the Bank of Japan, not the Federal Reserve. Nobody truly knows what happens next. What we know is this: when your country's biggest creditor stops buying and starts selling, your government pays more to borrow. And your mortgage is priced off that, which is why, a few days ago, America stepped into the market to rescue the yen. Not out of friendship, out of self-defense. So what's the real lesson? It isn't about Japan. Failure doesn't kill an economy. Refusing to admit failure does. A crash is loud, brutal, and it ends. A freeze is quiet, polite, painless, and it doesn't. Japan didn't dodge the fall. It's still falling. In slow motion. 35 years and counting. Now look west. A government carrying more debt than its entire economy produces. A central bank that spent a decade buying its own bond market. Leaders on every side promising that the bill will never, ever come due. Japan is not America's cautionary tale. Japan is America's preview. At the start of this video, I told you Japan discovered a third option. It refused to crash. Now you know what that really means. The country that refused to crash never escaped the fall. It just chose the longest possible way down. And it turns out the bill for a frozen economy doesn't arrive in an explosion. It arrives in your mailbox. So here's the question I keep turning over. The crash or the freeze? Take the brutal 2 years or the frozen 35. Tell me which one you'd choose in the comments. I read every single one.